Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode 2 of the Top Button Podcast with your host, Charlie Five. As you can tell by the lights in the background and the attire, it's time to get festive, it's time to get fired up, and it's time to boog. So let's button up, have some fun, and it's time to get after it. Look, last episode, the format worked really well. We had a little portal talk, a little bit of recruiting. Let's just kind of keep that flavor going. We're going to start off with a little portal, hit some recruiting, and then just see where it goes from there. Okay, so look, starting off with the portal. Look, this is the season. The portal giveth and the portal taketh away. But for one Auburn Tiger, the portal will not take him from us yet. The draft will not take him from us yet, and that is Keionte Scott, Agent Zero, our nickelback punt returning star. He is coming back for his third season on the Plains, and I don't think we could go sign a player on defense out of the portal, recruiting wise, anywhere that could have a bigger impact than Keionte Scott will have on this roster in 2024. We'd kind of heard some chatter that he was possibly coming back. We heard some other chatter that he was going to, go pro. He'd done kind of all he could do. He's been a great defensive back and special teams punt return guy, but he's coming back. He announced it on Twitter. It was a great video. It was suspenseful. It took me that whole 2-minute ride to start booging because it kind of felt like he was going to set us up to leave. But in the end, he decides that he's coming back. He hasn't had enough. He hasn't had enough booging. He hasn't had enough Auburn family. He hasn't had enough Jordan hair. He's ready to run it back. And I could not be more excited. He's probably my favorite player on last year's team. It was a bummer that he got hurt and missed several games. That could be another reason that kind of had it left him with a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth. He didn't get a full season to kind of shine. He had it kind of cut short in the middle of the season. Came back strong, and then had that terrible, untimely injury in the Iron Bowl where he hurt his shoulder, couldn't do the last punt return, and then I don't want to open that wound, but history is history. But the good news is one of the key pillars to the 2024 defense is coming back, and he is going to make a statement in 2024. And I can't wait to see him. I know he's going to be raring to go and going to make a huge impact. One thing that, keeping a guy like this is, like I already kind of mentioned, this is almost as big as signing the number one portal guy out of the portal. I mean, this is just as big as that because these guys have the freedom now to go and do and leave and go shop and do whatever they can to better themselves, which I'm all for. But he chose to come back to Auburn, and I'm sure he was handsomely rewarded for doing so, and he's worth every penny. And I'm fired up about that. Couple of other ancillary bonuses that people don't realize about Keionte Scott. Dude loves recruiting. Dude loves it. He loves hosting guys. He loves chirping at dudes on Twitter. That's like one of his favorite things. He calls himself the closer. I mean, this guy is not only coming back, but he's ready to go make Auburn better. Double whammy. It's like hiring another recruiter on the trail. That's who we have. Let me tell you somebody who loves Keionte Scott, KJ Bolden. Huge Keionte Scott fan. So not saying he's coming back just specifically to go after KJ Bolden, but if you don't think that's not a target he has his eyes set on, you got another thing coming. Keionte Scott could be, he could be one of the better recruiting players on the team. I mean, he absolutely loves it. I could see him after he plays several years in the NFL coming back to being a coach, and that dude being on the trail. Holy cow. He's infectious. And I think dudes are just drawn to him. They want to play with him. Some of the freshman guys, like imagine this. You're a freshman. highly recruited, you're a star at your high school, and you think that you're going to come into Auburn and play right away. You're going to be a stud right away. And then the senior who you think's leaving, that's going to be your spot that you're going to take over, comes back, and you're not mad about it. You're excited. That's what you're starting to see on Twitter. Some of these guys, I can't wait to come play behind you, to come learn from you. Amon Lane was one of the ones that is tweeting that, and he is a prototype, like nickel corner type player like that. I mean, that's going to be his role probably at Auburn. And the guy that's going to play in front of him, he is so excited that he gets to come play with him. I think that speaks volumes about his character, who he is, and just the value that he brings to this Auburn team. I'm just coming back. And I mentioned that, I mean, I'm lumping it into the portal just because it's just like getting a portal. It's really more like somebody dodging the NFL draft, but it's really just like adding somebody from the portal. So Keionte Scott's back. That's the biggest news of this offseason so far. So who are those guys? Who are those other guys that we're really hoping? We may not necessarily get announcements. I think one you probably will, and that's Eugene Asante. If he's one that we can put on the Keionte Scott path and get him to come back, I think he's going to be one that's going to put out an announcement. But you got Keionte Scott, Eugene Asante, and Dylan Wade. Eugene Asante and Dylan Wade, those are the next two. They're critical, in my opinion, for the success of next year. Maybe Dylan Wade more so than Asante, but that's only if you're just asking me to rate one above the other. But both of those dudes are so critical. And I think that you'll start to see a little bit of movement on those as well moving forward. And hopefully both are going to be positive. I know Dylan Wade, we're already kind of working on this, reimagining this 2024 offensive line with him included. So like already understand, like he's part of the plan right now, and the recruiting aspect of the portal is done with the idea that Dylan Wade's going to be here, whether he's going to be playing at tackle, whether we're going to be able to add that guy to slide him on the inside and just have this unbelievable left guard, center, right guard combo of him, Connor Lew, and then it could be Jeremiah Wright. It could be a portal guard, whoever. Those three right in the middle could be absolutely phenomenal. Who do you add at left tackle? You got Isaiah Miller over there at right tackle. The 2024 offensive line could really, really start to take shape here over the next 7 days or so. Would love to get an announcement from Dylan Wade that he's coming back to go ahead and solidify that spot, and then it can kind of make you see. I think he doesn't necessarily have to go first, but if he goes, then you can kind of see. You'll see how the pieces may fit together, and we're going to talk a little bit about who's come in on the offensive line from the portal this past weekend. And then, on Thursday, we'll talk about who's going to be coming on the weekend. So those things are big in portal season. I know they're not really necessarily related to the portal. You could lose those guys to the portal, but more than likely you're battling the NFL draft. But the reason I lumped them in here is because it's just like adding a huge portal pickup. It's just like adding a 5-star portal defender, nickel defender that you've seen film on, that you can compete at the SEC level and can compete at a high level in the SEC level and be a factor. Keionte Scott's coming back. Let's see what happens with Dylan Wade and Eugene Asante. Fingers crossed, because I think those guys are also very, very, very important. Let's keep the book going, man. This past weekend was great. Got our first true portal commitment. It was one of the ones that I kind of had on my radar. Robert Lewis out of Georgia State. I probably had 3 receivers that have entered that I feel like were at the top of my list, and he was one of them. He is an electric guy that we identified early in the process. That is to me the biggest key. Two things: identifying someone early, not being a last minute addition, not being somebody thrown together, somebody that you have selected, somebody that you have watched film on for a whole season, somebody that you have done the background checks on, that you've had time to actually compare to other guys. Not you're getting in here at the last minute and you're just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what will stick and just adding bodies. This is a dude that was in the top 3 or 4 of the guys that we targeted at receiver in the throughout the season, that we were going to consciously put effort in. If they went into the portal, we were going to get that guy. And you go out and you get him. You get a 5'11", 195-pound slot do-it-all guy. He could be a slot. He could be a little bit of an outside. You could really line him up at either position. He did a little bit of everything at Georgia State. He came out of the backfield. He was in the slot. He could go the short dig routes. He could go deep. He had a 97-yard touchdown, which we haven't had since, I guess the last one was probably Emory Blake in 2010. It's probably the longest touchdown we've had. That was 13 years ago. Now, granted, you don't have a 90-yard touchdown but once every probably decade anyway, but still, you got a guy that can house it from anywhere on the field. And he's probably labeled as an inside guy, but he's built, man. He's not just this small in stature guy. Again, he's 5'11", 195. There's running backs that are that size. That's like a good size of a running back. You're talking a smaller guy that can get it done, that can probably take some hits, that can make some stuff happen after contact. A lot of kind of reminds me of Eli Stove, possibly Eli Stove, but maybe a better all-around receiver. That's what he kind of reminds me of. 1 year to play. I think he's going to come in and he's going to play right away. Another theme that I think you're going to see with the receivers are, can you be here in January? When the first portal first opened up, one of the biggest receivers that I wanted, and I talked about it on Locked on Auburn, was Will Sheppard from Vanderbilt. Very productive, 3 years of 600-700 yards plus in the SEC, which I think, at Vanderbilt, over 100 yards receiving is something I wouldn't turn my nose up at. But he's been very productive. But the key is he from all reports, does not graduate until May. So Will Sheppard would not be here until probably late May, early June. And that we've done that before. People talk about G5. I think that we don't want to go G5 again. I don't think we want to bring dudes in June that we need to play right now and just roll with it. I don't think we're that desperate. I don't think we're at that point, especially when you got a Cam Coleman who's coming in early, not so early that he's going to be practicing in some of the bowl practices. No, but we want guys that can be here in spring, go through a spring practice, go through a spring workout. Robert Lewis is one of them. And I'm really, really fired up to see this guy. The one thing that I think we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer is if this is our inside guy, who is our outside guy? If we're going to have an inside and an outside guy, I'm not sure that it's 100% clear yet who that outside guy is. And I'm okay with that because I think there's possibly guys that may have not entered the portal yet. There could be guys playing in the playoff. There could be guys that are going to go in after their bowl game. And there could be a guy like a Kelly from Washington State that we're working on under the behind the scenes. That's just a possibility. I'm not saying that's what's going on. But when you got a guy like Robert Lewis, it sort of makes me not be so anxious. For me anyways, I'm not necessarily so anxious to see who it's going to be because I know I got one stud. So more than likely that theme can carry on. So again, I don't expect Will Shepherd to be the outside guy. I don't really know who that guy's going to be at the moment, but I'm sure it's going to start to shake out here soon because the clock's ticking. Bowl games are going to start being played. Dudes are going to start jumping in after their bowl games. You got to be in the portal by January 2nd. So we're well within 30 days of you having to be declared to be in the portal. So the clock's ticking. There's going to be some dead periods in there where dudes can't even talk to. I mean, they can talk to coaches, but they can't visit campuses. So it'll shake out. But this is a huge pickup. Golly, it's a huge pickup. The only slot guy that I would even entertain above him would be the Colin Lacey kid from South Alabama. But I think more than likely he is going to, deservedly so. He's the number 2 receiver yardage wise in the country. He's going to demand probably a very handsome NIL package. And I think we're probably two years away from not having to add 10 to 12 guys, and we can go get a Colin Lacey. We can go get the best guy out there because may only be adding 2 or 3. So right now we're still playing money ball. We're still figuring out that DraftKings / FanDuel lineup, making the value work. I could not be more excited about Robert Lewis. I'm ready for him to get here. I'm ready to watch spring ball because I don't see you're not going to be able to keep this guy off the field. Like he's going to walk in the room ready to go. This past weekend, we had several guys come in. We talked about Bedford from Indiana. He came in, offensive guard from Indiana. He could play pretty much anywhere. He left and went straight to Colorado. Not sure that whole situation. I'm not really sure where he falls on the list. I do know we want to take an inside, like a guard. I think we want to take a guard, and then we want to take a tackle prospect if we can. Bedford can play both, okay? But I don't necessarily think he's at the tops of the charts for either one. But he's in there. I think he's in there. But he did leave. He went to Colorado. He did not commit to Colorado, so he's probably going to take some more visits. And I think if we possibly need to entertain it and push, we can. One guy that I think the name is going to be around for a while, though. I'm not saying he's going to commit, but I think the one that's going to hang around and be in the conversation of who's going to be our offensive tackle is Mac Pounders from Memphis. First of all, what a name. What a name. Mac Pounders. Dude, if you got an offensive lineman if you got an offensive lineman whose name's Mac, I mean, that just Mac truck, I'm just going to run you over. And then Pounders. I mean, you put both those together, look out. All name offensive line team 2024. Like, give me some of that. Mac Pounders from Memphis. He is a 6'5", 300-ish, very, very athletic sophomore tackle. He's got 2 years left to play. That's big. That's late. That's not only being an impact, but you can be an impact for 2 years. Okay. Mac Pounders, turns out he's like from right outside the same hometown as Hugh Freeze. They they know the same restaurants. They got, coming from Jeffrey Lee from On 3. They hit it off right off the bat, which I feel like Hugh Freeze is just like that, man. I'm going to find, I've been to that gas station, or I've eaten at that restaurant, hole in the wall restaurant where you're from. Like, he's just that kind of guy. But it's just funny to have a dude from Mississippi that's grew up 10 minutes from where you grew up, your head coach grows up, that natural connection. Mac Pounders, I think, is going to be in the portal talk at left tackle for a while. And he said it was a 10 out of 10 visit, 10 out of 10 visit. There could be some guys that are maybe a little bit higher than him. It's hard to imagine there could be somebody that's that big of a fit that could be that much higher. But again, on Thursday's show, I think we got some guys coming in this weekend. We'll talk about that may be the battle that we have choosing between Mac Pounders and who may come in this weekend. So I'm a big fan of Mac. I'd be okay if he just called it and we just called it and committed. But I think there's a lot of stuff having a dude from Mississippi. I just like guys from Mississippi. They're just tough, tough offensive linemen from Mississippi. Give me some of those. I just think they're tough, and we're going to recruit Mississippi hard because that's huge stomping grounds. But I love having guys that you could possibly use to build relationships with other players, high schools in and around where that kid grew up. That's a lot of the vision that I see Hugh Freeze has. It's not just I'm trying to get this guy and that's the end of that. It's like, not only am I trying to get this guy, but I'm going to try to get this guy because I think he could lead me to this guy. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I see with Hugh Freeze. Another great thing about Mac Pounders, I talked about the 2 years. This 2025 high school offensive line class for Auburn could be absolutely the best we've ever had. I'm talking about we've always been desiring Auburn to be able to go out and get these 5-star offensive tackles, high 4-star offensive tackles. I think there's going to be multiple. I think you're going to have a chance to land multiple of those in this 2025 class. So what does that mean? Charlie 5, what does that have to do with Mac Pounders? Well, Mac Pounders is going to be here for 2024. He could be here for 2025. And so now you got dudes that are redshirt freshmen or true sophomores that are high 5-star players in 2026 when Mac Pounders is gone, that can, be ready to step on the field and play. They've had time to develop. You're not throwing guys into the fire. I just think being able to move away from being able to get a guy that's not a one and done, and again, Mac could be so good that he could still be a one and done. I think that's a good problem to have. If you bring Mac in and he shines so bright that he goes pro, that's a good problem to have. But more than likely, he's going to have to prove himself for 2 years at a higher level. It's probably going to be a little adjustment period in 2024. And then he's going to, once he gets up to speed, he just pushes even further forward in 2025. And then hopefully you got this offensive line class that's playing with him, playing behind him, working out with him in 2025, and they get to step in 2026 and just move it forward, move the line forward. So a lot of pluses behind Mac Pounders. But yeah, that's sort of the big highlights from the portal over the weekend. I think Zero Scott from Southern Miss, I think he came in as well. He's one of the interior guys that we're looking at. When you're listening to this, he's possibly going to have committed. I think he announced that he's going to commit today, which is Tuesday. At this point in time, I'm not sure that it's going to be Auburn, and I don't think that is. I think that's by design. I think that we have some guys that are a little bit higher on the board, Bedford possibly being one, and then some guys that we possibly have coming in this weekend. So I wouldn't necessarily freak out about that. I know we pumped him up on Locked on Auburn and today's show, Locked on Auburn, and I'm still very high on him. And if he does choose Auburn, that's a bonus because the dude's from Mobile. Again, you had a Mobile kid, Mobile relationships. He's only got 1 year, but he could come in. He could start right away at right guard. But at this point in time, I'm not necessarily sure that he's going to be an Auburn Tiger. I think he's probably going to go to Ole Miss. So Thursday, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about upcoming visits. This next weekend could be even bigger for the portal. The portal's starting to get open good. I said it ain't even been open that good last week. It's open good now. More guys are going in. Guys are starting to commit. And And this weekend is one of the big weekends that's before a dead period, which I think is dumb. I think it's dumb to be able to open the portal and then you have dead periods in the meantime. So it's going to be a big visit weekend. We're going to bring in a bunch of guys. And as those visits start to kind of show themselves and become a little bit more clear, we're going to talk about that a little bit on Thursday. So before I get into recruiting, I want to talk about, on the little intro episode, I said we're going to talk about recruiting. We're going to talk about the portal. We're going to talk about football. We may even have some life lessons. And this is going to be kind of one of those football recruiting deals that ends up possibly kind of being a life lesson. So just buckle up, hang in there with me for a minute. Okay. So today, actually, when I'm recording this on Monday, so yesterday, you're listening to this on Tuesday. So yesterday, Ryan Williams, the number one player in the 2025 class, possibly the most electric offensive player that's ever come out of the state of Alabama. Cannot think of one that is more electric than this kid from a marketing standpoint, from a fame standpoint, and then talent. Cannot think of one. I tried hard to find somebody to compare him to. I can't do it. Winning Mr. Football as a sophomore, and then skipping your whole senior year. And not only that, you skip your senior year and you're reclassed to 2024 to guys that are a year and a half older than you, and you're still a top 15 player. You come in at number 12, I think, in several rankings. That's unbelievable to me. That's just incredible. Like, that's unheard of. He announces yesterday, that he's going to reclass to the 2024 class. So he's a junior. He's going to skip his whole senior year, graduate early, and enroll in college in the summer of what would be the summer before his real senior year. So he's given up track, which he is a unbelievable 100-yard dash guy, like state champion 100-yard dash. That he's great, could win a state championship in track. Giving up track, I guess he's giving up prom, 2 proms. I mean, dude is ready to, technically he could still go to his junior prom. Okay, I take that back. He could go to his junior prom, but he is not doing track. He said, I'm not doing track. I don't want to risk getting hurt. To go ahead and enroll and be a college football player at 16 and a half, 17 years old. I mean, that just that blows my mind. A, that can even be done now, but B, that not only that, he can do that and be re-ranked at such a high level. Okay, so he has this big press conference. We all know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody's been paying attention. We know he's not flipping. We know he's already committed to Alabama. We know that there's not really anything that he could necessarily be announcing except for his reclass. So is it that big a deal to have a press conference? Is it that big of a deal to attend? Maybe not. But you know who thinks it's a big deal? Hugh Freeze thinks it's a big deal. Hugh Freeze thinks it's such a big deal that he sends 3 coaches, not one, 3 coaches. Now you're probably saying, why didn't Hugh go? Well, Hugh technically couldn't go because if he's still going to recruit Ryan Williams, that would have counted as his in-home visit. Okay. And we know all about in-home Hugh, hashtag in-home Hugh. He's going to be strategic about that. It's going to be impactful and don't want to waste it on a press conference. So he sends 3 coaches. So you're thinking, oh, no big deal. There's probably tons of coaches there. Not a single SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10. No other coaches at this press conference, but 3 coaches from the Auburn Tigers. The little things, guys, the little things about this staff are what matters. They do not miss opportunities, okay? You may not get Ryan Williams, but it will not be because you missed an opportunity. You missed an opportunity to call him. You missed an opportunity to see him. You missed an opportunity to show him how much you care and how much you want him to play for you. And I think that today had to have made a huge impact on his recruitment. Will he sign next week on early signing day? He says he's signing on he says he's signing on February 9th, which is 2 days after late signing day. There's been some Alabama reporters that say, I wouldn't be surprised if he signs next week. I don't know that. I don't know what ends up happening. I can only imagine the pressure that he's going to be under to sign next week, because at this point in time, you got to be sweating Alabama. Okay, he's reclassified. Let's get him in. Let's get him signed as fast as possible. If he pushes that out to late signing day, and he's been quoted as saying that if that happens, he's going to take official visits. He's going to take his 4 official visits, and Auburn will be one of them. And based off of the quotes that he said, Auburn will be his last official visit. So little things, guys, they matter not only in recruiting, but they matter in everything, in relationships, whatever. It's the little things go so very far. So that's one thing that, again, you may not be able to develop them. You may not be able to win. And I'm not saying Hugh Freeze will win multiple national championships, but I will say that there's nobody that's going to hit all the little things and work as hard and care as much and show the guys that he cares as much as Hugh Freeze does. And I'm very impressed. I was shocked that we were the only, coaching staff that was there. And I'm proud. I'm proud. It's a guy that's been committed to Alabama for a long time. And more than likely, if I was a betting guy right now, I'd say he was more than likely he's going to sign. And you may have done it with no return, but you still did it and you were there. And I think that is going to pay dividends down the road tenfold. So little things. This staff does not miss it. Does not miss little things. All right. So we've talked a little bit about the Ryan Williams thing. Now let's really get into heavy BOOG action right now. Okay. This past weekend, and while we're recording it today, you've had some big time high school guys and junior college guys on campus, one of which went ahead and committed. Seth Willifred from Snow College, I think coincidentally is the same junior college that Keionte Scott went to. Fact check me on that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe they went to the same junior college. Offensive tackle, 3 years to play. He's probably not going to be a factor year one. But you just added essentially a sophomore, 6'5", 300 that's been through at least a junior college season, a junior college weight room, somebody that you can see film on, that you're adding to the rotation that you don't necessarily have to have year one. Xavier Miller, I think, was supposed to be that last year, but he ended up being so far ahead of schedule, he got to go ahead and sort of solidify himself as right tackle. Seth Willifred was one of I think probably their top JUCO guy that they targeted. They stuck with him. He's in the class. Excited about him and the future moving forward and the competition at offensive tackle. Remember the days where we just didn't sign offensive tackles? Just didn't care about them. Like, hey, we didn't care about offensive line, period, for a while. I mean, there was a stretch where we signed like 3 offensive linemen in 3 or 4 years. It was insane. We're living and dying by people convincing people to come back for their 6th years and not adding anybody. And now you go from having to bring in 5 dudes in one offseason to be your starting 5 essentially, to now you probably only have to have 2 guys in the portal. You're going to add 2 or 3 high school guys. You got 4 or 5 dudes that in the 2025 class that you got targeted, 1 committed, several right on the edge. And you're just ready to start putting your foot on the gas and moving forward at offensive line. So Seth Willifred, big addition. Another guy that we talk about Ryan Williams, we talk about Cam Coleman, we talk about Perry Thompson. LJ McCray may be the most important player of this whole class. He is a 5-star freak defensive lineman. You're talking Keldrick Falk size now, not Keldrick Falk when he was in high school. Keldrick Falk was big in high school. But he blew up to where he is now after being here in the spring and being here in the summer and through the, going through the weight, going through the season, going through the weight program, gaining good weight. This guy is absolutely a freak. Just won the state championship from Daytona Beach, Mainland High School. LJ is an absolute monster. His film is incredible. He's somebody that I think we had about 2 or 3 guys that we were like, we won't give up on. We want one of these guys. We will not give up on one of these guys. We will not give up on these guys until it's signing day. And we've stuck with LJ. We've stuck with LJ. And finally, we started to see a little chink in the armor of the UF Florida recruiting class with Billy Napier and the status of the program. You're seeing dudes go in the portal. You're seeing a lot of uncertainty, and we've been right there. We didn't wait until this happened to show back up. We never left. We were there with LJ, and he came in for an official visit. And he came in with his buddy, Jamonta Waller, who we flipped from UF. And you saw some awesome pictures. Like, did you see the pictures of them in the Letterman's jacket? You got to go look up these guys on Instagram. They have these starter, these old retro type Letterman looking jackets, sitting both looking just absolute beasts. And Jamonta says, "Hey, you can't double both of us. You can't block both of us. Like, you got to pick one, and then the other one's coming." And that is the kind of guy that is an absolute program changer. You're talking Derek Brown, program changing defensive lineman that you could possibly be adding. If you said right now, C5, you can add one more guy to this class right now. You only get to add one out of everybody. KJ Bolden, Ryan Williams, whoever, add one more guy. I'm adding LJ McCray. That's the number one, because you win championships with game-changing defensive linemen, and that's who LJ McCray is, and he would be from day one. You would have to tranquilize him to keep him off the field. I think he's going to be that good. And honestly, at this point in time, it's December 12th. I'm going to be shocked if he's not in this class, if he does not sign with Auburn next week. I really will be absolutely shocked. If nothing else, he doesn't sign at all and pushes it back to have more time. I want him to go ahead and flip, want him to go ahead and sign. It's not going to at this point in time, I'm going to be shocked if he's not an Auburn Tiger. LJ McCray, stud, puts you well on the path to a top 5 class. I think if the way the class calculator works out, if you sign everybody you sign and you add LJ McCray, puts you well inside the top 10, probably around the 8, and then you only need to add 1 or 2 more to get inside the top 5. So it's not really that far-fetched. It's not really that far-fetched at all. Another guy that came in who is an absolute stud that I think this is cool because this is like James Bond type stuff. This is like James Bond type stuff. Amherst Williams, another defensive line recruit that's committed to Florida, another top 100 defensive lineman. He's not as physically gifted as an LJ McCray, but he's just as disruptive. He can be just as much of an impact. You're talking more of in the Marcus Harris role, sort of that space eating, disruptive, type inside defensive guy. Gets in the dirt, gets dirty. That's who this guy is. He came in on an official visit yesterday. So today's Tuesday. Yesterday he came in on his official visit. He'll be here till at least sometime today, and I think the reports will start coming out. We worked on this guy behind. When I said James Bond type stuff, nobody knew this name was out there until like last week. But we were working him the exact same way we were working LJ. Not for not when the opportunity arose the whole time, and then the opportunity came up, and then we got our shot. We had ourselves in position so that when the opportunity arises, we have our shot. He comes in for a visit. We'll see how things go. I can't imagine he had a bad time, but I mean, a thing that you'll need to watch on him. There was a report that came out that one of our current commits, Dimitri Nicholas, three-star defensive lineman, a similar build, similar type player, maybe not quite as athletic as an Amaris Williams, was asked, hey, let's sign, maybe possibly sign on the late signing period. Not necessarily saying we don't, go look elsewhere, but let's just wait and see what happens. I think that's probably a pretty good sign. It's probably a pretty good sign for an Amaris Williams. Amaris, not really sure how to pronounce it, but I don't think that had any bearing on LJ McCray. I think it has most of the bearing to do with Amaris Williams. I think those, like I said, those two are similar players. If you get an Amaris Williams to want to join, do you have room for a Dimitri Nicholas? It's kind of cutthroat, but it is what it is at this point in time. So the pathway to a top 5 class is there, and we're 6-7 days away. 6-7 days away from signing day. So you got some big visits coming up this weekend, probably high school and portal. Can you get KJ Bolden in again? Because it's a big basketball game this weekend. Can you sneak him in for another visit? We've got some of the current commits coming. Can you sneak in some dudes in with them to be with them for a basketball game for a weekend and really seal the deal? So I think that's going to be the key. A lot of that will start to make sense over the rest of the week. And I'm going to have it here for you on Thursday. We're going to have a weekend preview. We're going to talk about who's coming in, any developments that have happened since today, and we're going to have a blast. So I don't know. I had a blast last Thursday. I had a lot of fun recording this one. For some reason, you guys like listening to it, so I'm going to keep putting it out. I really appreciate everybody that listened, everybody that downloaded, everybody that commented. I tried to comment back to most of them. You got questions on Twitter, you can DM me, you can tweet at me, whatever. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to boog out. Some people say, hey, you're one of us. And that's how I feel. I'm just like one of you guys. We're just fans that love Auburn, that get fired up for recruiting, that get fired up for football. And I'm just here to talk about it. And hopefully I can be, just like a voice. I like say the things that are probably in your head, that kind of thing. So, y'all have a great rest of the week. We'll talk on Thursday, and hopefully maybe there's going to be some fireworks between now and then. So we'll see, but I'll definitely have it there for you. So appreciate it again. Catch us on Thursday. Follow me on Twitter/X at @the_Charlie_5. You can catch me on Locked On Auburn, the Locked On Auburn Discord, on Locked On Auburn podcast on Tuesdays. I'm here. Like Dion says, I'm easy to find. So y'all have a great rest of the week. Catch you on Tuesday. This is episode 2 of the Top Button Podcast, so stay buttoned.